My name is Kim Burden. I'm with the Parksville District and Qualicum Beach Chambers of Commerce, and we're doing a series of interviews with candidates for the federal election to allow our members and the public to get a good handle on their views on a variety of topics. With me today is Susan Farlinger, who is running for the Federal Liberal Party. Good morning, Susan. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Kim.
So, we're going to cover as many topics as we can in the allotted time, and the first one up is one that's really very, very critical to our business members in this region, and that's we're experiencing a significant challenge finding employees. And we're asking candidates what steps they think the federal government can take to encourage people to return to work.
Well, thanks. It's a pretty big topic, and really it's jobs, like many of the other issues, are situated at a time of huge change. We're having to adapt to climate change, not just hear about it, but actually do something about it. Build businesses. Small and medium businesses are 97% of the businesses in this country, and nowhere is it more important than in this riding. And also have to come out of the pandemic and move forward. So we've got a lot of things on the plate, and it's time for some rather big changes. But in the meantime, we have to deal with the immediate and practical issues of jobs. I've certainly heard it said that CERB has been a problem with respect to hiring new employees. Many people are not aware that CERB actually ended in September of 2020. That's an important issue, and I've often been asked about why CERB is still going, and in fact it's not. But this Liberal government, of which I would like to be a part, really has taken a more comprehensive approach. Not only immediately with the pandemic, managing the pandemic, keeping people safe, dealing with individuals with CERB, for example, but also supporting businesses. And the thrust has really moved from the immediate to how do we move forward. There are currently proposals in the budget and on the Liberal proposals for supporting business. Currently programs actually in place to help small and medium businesses hire staff, and also issues around supporting businesses for rent and other business costs as we go through the times when we're trying to move out of the pandemic, but the pandemic isn't leaving us alone right now. So it's certainly my view that the federal government has a significant role to play. None of these issues are one government alone. We've got to work with the provincial, municipal governments, with the businesses, with the chambers of commerce. And I'm prepared to support and advocate for the kind of forward-looking small business we need here in the future, but also to keep people here operating alive and prepared to make those adaptations that we're going to have to make in the future.
Thank you. So, tied to finding workers, finding people to work in small business is a housing issue. And I know we've got a significant challenge in this community with just finding housing, and then also finding housing that people can afford to live in. What do you think the federal government can do? What changes do you think we could make to the national housing strategy? How do you feel that we can move forward to make a greater range of housing available for, particularly for workforce, but for the community as a whole? Indeed.
And the diverse communities in this riding, from Tofino, Ucluelet, Port Alberni, through Parksville, Qualicum, Courtenay, Cumberland. I mean, we have everything from soup to nuts here, and certainly one aspect, the tourism industry, is something that has a demand for seasonal housing, for example, or at least time limited. On the other hand, we have families who are living here or trying to find a place to live. So I am absolutely with you on this being a top issue for this riding, as different as it is in our different communities. I've seen a couple of things in the last couple of weeks talking to people. I've been at a Habitat for Humanity event in Courtenay where I can see federal contributions, local businesses, local people volunteering, all to come together through an organization like Habitat for Humanity to start to build those things. 12 new houses in the center of Courtenay, I saw last week. So there's a federal role there. Certainly in terms of managing the market, it is a supply and demand market, no doubt about it. We all know it. It's a complex problem, and every level of government as well as individuals are involved. But the federal government has proposed to put a ban on flipping, deal with the flipping tax, make sure that homeowners can actually get a home inspection. So dealing with it from that perspective, also have programs and need to increase and think about how these are directed in communities like ours to build affordable housing. There are always challenges with affordable housing, but it also has to be affordable housing that looks forward, is low energy, people can afford to live in and manage. So there's a broad range of ways that the federal government can support provincial and municipal governments and local people who are getting together to solve these problems. In my view, it's a matter of connecting the dots and connecting this community to the kind of federal support and advocating for what we need here on the island.
So let's move to a topic that your work history will probably have given you some good perspective and insight, and that's the fisheries issue that we're seeing on the island in terms of the number of lost jobs with the closure of fish farms, the decrease in the economic impact of commercial fisheries on the island. The Chamber has supported the Pacific salmon strategy in the past, but we've yet to see a definitive timeline and any action steps. And I'd like to know what your views are with regard to the Pacific salmon strategy and how you think you can move it forward in a slightly more efficient way to recover those jobs that we've lost.
Well, thanks very much. I think, first of all, in the kind of resource management, resource industries, like forestry, like fisheries, we've actually got to turn the corner. Building on the way we've done things in the past, where it's useful, but really we have to make significant changes. And there's been a lot of evolution in both of those industries, which have been bedrocks for these communities. And then when you add, of course, the development of aquaculture and not only salmon, but shellfish and other species, aquaculture in this area, we have a different place than we were trying to deal with when we developed a lot of these things. I think that this sea change is going to require us to work together to figure out how we could make the fishery work better for the community, seek new opportunities, and move away from practices that have been problematic in the past. We have been talking about this, for example, on the fisheries file since the mid-90s with the coho crisis. We had a big infusion of federal money in the fisheries restructuring in 1998 to 2000 when David Anderson was the fisheries minister for the Liberal Party. We cut the salmon fleet in half. We've tried a lot of things. I think in the forest industry we're seeing the development of more and more value added. These things will take investments and support from the federal government to make them happen. With respect to the salmon strategy that recently announced by the minister, moving that out is really going to be about changing the view through which, the lens through which we view fisheries restoration, which is now our priority, rebuilding. I mean, you can do everything you like, but if you don't have the fish, It's not going to work. And salmon stocks in this part of the world have been profoundly affected by changes in fresh water in the ocean, as well as other changes with developing recreational fishing, Aboriginal rights, developing fisheries that are associated with those rights and communities, and also looking at the decline in the commercial industry for salmon, which has been happening over that entire period. As we discover more and more about conservation and management and understand the impacts of climate change, we're having to change the course. So in terms of those who may no longer be commercial fishing, the strategy includes a licensed retirement for people who wish to leave the fishery. For those people who remain, it will be important to target specific fisheries on specific stocks. I think a good example is fishing closer to the stream rather than more fishing out where the stocks are mixed, where you'll have a stock of concern mixed with a really abundant stock, and you just can't help but harvest them both together. These are system changes that we need to work with the commercial industry, with the recreational industry to update the management and looking forward there, and also in the developing Aboriginal fisheries, which are both commercial, recreational, and thirdly, of course, the food security or the food fishery for First Nations. In the case of forestry, I think the value added and moving from exports to value added here in our communities and exporting a final product is a really important way to move forward, and the federal government has a role in supporting that.
A very complex problem with very complex solutions.
It's not easy.
It isn't easy. And another complex problem that business experiences is taxation. When we talk to businesses that we're trying to attract to our communities, when we talk to businesses that are in our communities, that always comes up. How can we simplify the tax system? The Canadian Chamber of Commerce has been asking for a comprehensive and independent review for a number of years. Can you tell us how you feel with regard to the current tax system, and would you support a comprehensive and independent review?
Once again, another easy issue with simple solutions. Not at all. There has been a reduction on taxes in small business. However, this isn't a Band-Aid. Something that requires a Band-Aid. We need an overall look, and I would be prepared to advocate for an overall review.
Well, we would look forward to that. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I know that the campaign trail is long. This is a big riding. One last question that's not on our sheet. Tell me why you decided that you would like to seek a seat in Parliament under the Liberal Party banner.
Okay, well, in 2016 I retired from a long career in the public service, where I saw the other side, the bureaucratic side. I certainly am experienced seeing the political side and reacting to it, but I haven't been a part of it. The changes that are in front of us right now seem to me to be the biggest certainly in my lifetime, and in the lifetime I think that will affect our youth, my kids, my grandkids, of which I have many, as many of us do here. I've heard from people in these communities that their kids leave. They leave to look for opportunities. They leave because, well, housing isn't much better in other places, quite frankly, just a different set of problems. And we want to create a place where we have sustainable small and medium business that generates the kind of jobs people want, where we can get access to federal, certainly in my case, important infrastructure support, changes for energy and our housing. So they're just such a large number of issues, and they don't require small solutions. And sitting back working part-time and being retired just really wasn't enough. I seized of the moment. This is the most important time, I think, in my lifetime to be a part of changes. I have experience in resource management. I love this part of the world. And quite frankly, my values of inclusiveness, looking forward, and evidence-based science to help us make decisions about what we have to do align completely with my personal values.
Thank you so much, and thank you for putting yourself out there. It's a tough row, and I know that you've got a busy month ahead of you, and want to remind people to get out and vote on September 20th or take advantage of any of the advance polls. It's a really important decision that we have to make, particularly in the times that we're in. So thank you, Susan.
You're very welcome. And I'd just like to say, I think those connections are really important, and I'd like to make that connection for the people in this riding.
Great.
Thanks.